Hey everyone, and welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're diving into the hidden chemistry behind our absolute favorite crispy Indian snacks. Look, we all love that perfect crunch, right? But there's actually a fascinating and honestly pretty important chemical reaction happening right beneath the surface of our food that we really need to understand, especially as we get a bit older.
Take a second and think about this. What do traditional deep-fried snacks, your samosas and pakoras, actually share with those highly processed store-bought biscuits you might dip into your evening chai? Well, the answer isn't just carbs or calories. There is this totally unexpected chemical link bridging our homemade deep-fried treats and modern ultra-processed snacks.
Okay, here's a quick look at our roadmap for today. 1. The hidden cooking chemical. 2. The science of acrylamide formation. 3. Risks for Indian seniors. 4. Comparing Indian cooking methods. And finally, number 5. Smart swaps for Indian kitchens.
All right, let's jump right into section 1, the hidden cooking chemical.
So the crucial thing to know up front is that acrylamide isn't some weird artificial additive injected into your food by corporations. No, it's actually a completely natural byproduct of high-heat cooking. Basically, whenever you take starchy, plant-based foods and blast them with heat above 120 degrees Celsius, whether you're frying, roasting, or baking them, acrylamide is going to form.
You can kind of see the scope of the issue here, because acrylamide is literally across the board. Sure, you'll find it in ultra-processed factory foods like potato chips and packaged biscuits. But you're also going to find it in your everyday homemade snacks, crispy samosas, pakoras, your morning toast, and yep, even roasted coffee beans. Anywhere heat meets starch, acrylamide is crashing the party.
Moving right along to section 2, the science of acrylamide formation.
Okay, to really understand acrylamide, we have to talk about the Maillard reaction. If you love to cook, you've definitely heard this term. It's that exact same wonderful chemical process that makes our food turn beautifully brown, smell irresistible, and taste so incredibly good. When water, reducing sugars, and amino acids get hit with high heat, they react. But alongside all that amazing flavor, this reaction has a bit of a tricky side effect.
Check out this exact molecular pathway. It's actually pretty wild. Certain foods contain this naturally occurring amino acid called asparagine. When asparagine heats up and reacts with those reducing sugars during that Maillard reaction we just mentioned, it directly transforms into acrylamide. That's the primary way this whole thing happens.
And what's really crazy about this, humans have been cooking with fire since, well, the dawn of time, right? But scientists literally didn't know acrylamide was forming in our food until 2002. A Swedish researcher named Tarika made the discovery, and it immediately prompted global health organizations, including the WHO and the FDA, to evaluate it. They eventually classified acrylamide as a probable human carcinogen.
Let's shift gears to section 3, risks for Indian seniors.
Now this is what we call the double danger. The problem isn't just the acrylamide by itself. Foods that are super high in acrylamide, think instant noodles, packaged biscuits, deeply fried snacks, they almost always carry massive secondary health risks. We're talking severe sugar loads and refined carbs that cause huge blood sugar spikes for folks with diabetes. We're talking trans fats and massive sodium dumps that are terrible for heart health.
Contrast that with our amazing traditional meals. A classic plate of fresh sabzi, boiled lentils, and homemade rotis. That is incredibly nutrient-dense, safe, and has near-zero acrylamide. But on the flip side, we have this modern influx of ultra-processed stuff. Packaged chips and biscuits are literally engineered by the food industry to make you overeat. They strip out the good stuff and pump in dangerous empty calories, salt, and of course, acrylamide.
And for older adults, let's be honest, the body is just a little less forgiving. Metabolism naturally slows down, which makes weight control a lot harder. The risk of a blood sugar spike from just a couple of biscuits? Way higher. For a senior who's actively managing their blood pressure or cholesterol, the cumulative health effect of snacking on these processed acrylamide-heavy foods is honestly just too risky. It's not just about one chemical, it's about the whole nutritional profile.
So what do we do about it? Let's get into section 4, comparing Indian cooking methods. Look at the incredible extremes we have right in our own kitchens. On one hand, traditional boiling or steaming, which we use for rice, dal, and idli, maxes out at 100 degrees Celsius. That means near zero acrylamide formation. It is super safe. But on the other hand, a tandoor oven gets blazing hot, anywhere from 250 to over 350 degrees Celsius. Because of that intense, dry heat, starchy breads like naan and tandoori roti actually have a really high potential for acrylamide.
And let's look at how we get our food crispy. A traditional deep frying kadai produces the absolute highest levels of acrylamide. Why? Because that hot oil perfectly conducts intense heat across the entire surface of the food. Oven baking is also up there.
But notice where air frying sits on the scale. It is way, way lower. Get this, simply swapping out a deep frying kadaï for an air fryer can reduce acrylamide formation by 30 to 90%. That is huge. It works because air fryers use way less surface oil. Air is just a less efficient heat conductor than oil, so the surface of the food doesn't hit those extreme chemical-altering temperatures nearly as fast.
Which brings us to my favorite part of the explainer, Section 5, Smart Swaps for Indian Kitchens. Let's make this actionable.
If you are a fan of potatoes, you've got to try this awesome little food science trick. Just soak your raw, cut potatoes in cold water for about 15 to 30 minutes. Doing this washes away a massive amount of the surface starch. And since that starch is the raw material needed to form acrylamide, getting rid of it severely limits the whole reaction. Just make sure you blot them completely dry before cooking, so they still get nice and crispy. Now here's the visual proof, and you can literally just use your eyes for this one. Acrylamide levels shoot up as food gets darker. So your goal? Always aim to cook your starchy foods to a light golden yellow color. The second your food starts hitting those dark browns, the acrylamide levels have completely skyrocketed.
And you definitely don't have to just take my word for it. This is the official recommendation straight from the US FDA. Just keeping an eye on your cooking color is literally one of the easiest and most effective things you can do. Seriously, just pull the food off the heat a minute or two earlier than you normally would.
Let's pull all of this together into some easy daily habits. Ditch those high-sugar, acrylamide-heavy tea-time biscuits and snack on some roasted chana or makhana instead. Oh, and never store your raw potatoes in the fridge. The cold temperature actually converts the potato starch into the exact sugars that fuel acrylamide. Stick to boiling or steaming your veggies when you can, and if you are using an air fryer, bump that temperature down to 170 degrees Celsius. Small steps become habits, right? You don't need a total diet overhaul to protect your health.
Well, we've covered the chemistry, the hidden risks of processed foods, and the magic of tweaking your temperature and cooking techniques. Knowledge is absolutely your best defense here. So I want to leave you with this. Which small, empowering kitchen swap are you going to make tomorrow morning? Are you going to soak those potatoes, ditch the biscuits, or finally fire up that air fryer? The choice is totally yours. Thanks so much for hanging out with me for this explainer, and keep staying curious.